If you watched my lesson 9, you should be able to put in practice what follow-through and overlap means and how to use them. I will use this super simple wig of an edible with a fluffy tail. I usually start animating the body, in this case the head bowl, so I hide the tail mesh and I animate the bowl up to the refine and polishing. When my animation is finished, I go to animate the tail. At this point, you should already know that I'm used to use different shaders to simplify my workflow, so I create a sort of rainbow tail, assigning different colors to each section of the tail connected to a joint. So I set the first pose for the tail and then I go to animate the first sections, the leading part, the ones directly attached to the bowl that will drag the rest of the tail, but in turn the first section is dragged by the bowl head. So following the main action of the bowl, I go to animate just the first section that will react to the bowl movement. It's important to determine if the tail will be just dragged by the bowl or if it will also move independently. In my case, the tail is mainly dragged by the bowl, but it also has an independent movement when needed. For example, at the beginning, I want to use the tail to have the push for the jump, so even if the bowl has a very small rotation and the squash to gain the energy for the jump, I move the tail right and left to increase this push and have more power. During the jump, when the ball is stretched, the tail must point downward because it has a delay compared to the ball, so it overlaps the action. Also during the spin in the air, the tail overlaps the main action, the ball rotation. As you can see here, I rotate the tail on the right, drag it by the spinning rotation of the ball. When the ball stops its rotation, the tail will stop with a delay of 3, 4 or 5 frames. For all the time that the ball stays in the air, the tail will continue to move upward with a very slow spacing. When the ball starts to fall, the tail is raised up, and just as before, after the ball landed on the ground, the tail will arrive with a 3-4 frames of delay. Don't care about compa notation for the moment, because we will go to adjust the position when we will animate the rest of the tail. Then we have the following little bounces, so we can animate the saddle, moving the tail up and down for a couple of times, decreasing the movement up to a complete stop. So this is the animation of the first section of the tail. After that, we go back to animate the rest of the tail, one section at a time, and following the order starting from the top. Each section will have a delay of 2, 3, 4 frames compared to the previous sections. What you have to remember is that each part will first react to the movement of the part that drag it, moving in the opposite direction. Let's see an example with the last tail sections. When these sections move forward, the following part is dragged by it, but it turns in the opposite direction due to the delay, and then it will follow the first section movement. The last part will have the same reaction, but it's dragged by the second section. So at the beginning, it will rotate on the right when the second one rotates on the left. These are some examples of a tail shape. Even during breakdowns and in-betweens, you have to be extremely careful to create a nice and rounded shape. Avoid straight lines except when it's completely stretched, like during the fall. In these cases, a straight line is allowed. Keep attention to the arcs that you will create with the tail movement. A nice tip is to use Maya tools or script to create an onion skin that show you the previous and following poses, or to draw on Maya, but I prefer the old school transparent paper that I put on the screen that is always attached on the back of my Mac, and I easily turn it on when I need it. So I can quickly draw the arc I want for the tail movement, and then frame by frame I get to adjust the positions following the path. With these simple rules, and if you well understood this principle, your final result should be something like this. So this is a simple tutorial for a basic tail animation with a straight ahead approach. If you're just beginner, I suggest you to start with a short and simple animation and become familiar with the concept of drag, follow through and overlap.